Namaste, everyone. Welcome to the third episode of Higher Visions Awaken with Linda Graham. And during this series, this experience, I'm going to share with you about how my energy was and how it was for me on a day-to-day basis after my awakening, and what happened when I finally got a job. And we're going to cover protection. I'm going to talk about an out-of-body experience um, and how I handled readings. I'm going to talk about the dream that happened while I was awake and many more things. So sit tight. I hope you enjoy this episode. Thank you for joining me. Namaste. If you enjoy this, by the way, do hit the subscribe button below and the bell so you can hear when the next episode's up. So today we're going to cover quite a few things, and I really want to sort of talk about how it was for me, soon after that awakening. If you didn't see that experience, do go to the episode 2 where I tell you all about it. You'll really need to hear that. That's quite an amazing experience. But for me, after this amazing awakening and this connection with the divine, one would hope that that would have just waved a magic wand and all of the things that were really concerning me in my life magically got better. Well, it doesn't happen like that. I may have had an awakening, but I still had all my old conditionings and patterns and things that needed healing and repairing and revamping definitely in certain areas. And as I said to you right at the beginning of these episodes, life was not a very easy experience for me at that particular time. I had a lot of personal issues going on in my life that continued to be painful, and so I was this betwixt and between, really. One moment I was like energized and positive, and how can it be like that and be down at the same time? But I kind of was. It sounds a bit bipolarish, really, doesn't it? But it's, having had this experience and taken that on board, and yes, it had changed my life. Yes, it really had. And I suddenly, was starting to have more and more experiences. However, sort of earthly life was also still happening and still having to deal with it and deal with own personal issues as we do as we're growing and developing. Just because I had an awakening didn't turn me into some sort of angel overnight who had no situations going on. One of the things I found that because of this situation going on, my sensitivity had really grown. I was seeing more visions, I was doing more readings, and I was becoming much more sensitive. My empathy grew, and people would come near me and I'd start to experience all sorts of pains in my body, and I didn't actually realise I was absorbing their physical experiences. Or I'd feel fine and then I'd feel really, really down and didn't actually realise I was taking on board somebody else's emotional experiences. So going into a supermarket was not an easy experience, and that's something I had to do quite regularly, like we do. And I did have some times, and I went through a period of having panic attacks, which was not easy. I was very, very lucky. I had my lovely friend Gary around, who was CPN at that time, and he was able to calmly and beautifully just help me through the hurdles that presented. So here I am. It's a whole mixture, isn't it? It's a whole mixture of life, as it was for me. So I was doing readings, and I was doing readings for people, but my old patterns and lack of confidence was coming up and thinking, what if I can't do this? What if I can't do this reading? And I'd have an inner panic going on, but outwardly you would not have known. It was all going in behind the scenes. And I realised the best way for me to do these readings and to be more relaxed about it was just to be prepared to be wrong. And if somebody says, well, that's not right, that's okay, because that's what I thought could happen anyway. And that made a lot of difference. I started to really relax and enjoy doing more readings. However, there were times when some people would come in for a reading and they would decide that I'm going to sit here with my arms folded, I'm not going to say a word, and my lack of confidence inside would make me think that perhaps I wasn't doing a good job. And so there was lots of things and lots of hurdles to overcome during a consultation. And because I decided to take on this idea that I could be wrong at any given moment, it did make it easier, even when people were not really responding very much, wasn't getting any feedback. And that, I think, got me over those hurdles. And I remember a lady came to see me for a reading, and she was a relative of Terry Waite, the humanitarian who got kidnapped in 1987, I think, till 1991 he was captured. So I sat her down for the reading, and she said basically she wanted to know if he was still alive. Well, this was really hot stuff in the newspapers at that particular point. And I had this moment of panic. What if I get it wrong? And I just went back into, look, just say what comes to you. That's all you can do. So I said to her, he was alive and he would come home again. And when he did come home, when he was released, I was so utterly overjoyed. And it'd been at the back of my mind, what if I'd got it wrong? So it was interesting. Anyway, I had this, on top of all of these personal things, personal issues going on, I had this kind of revved up excitement. I did say after my awakening it took 7 years to calm down, and that is no word of a lie. So I thought I must be able to go and get a job now. I'm sort of so buzzing and uplifted that I could go and do it. So I went to go for jobs, and I think I freaked them out because I was just so over the top. Anyway, I don't know whether any of you know that I was a men's hairstylist back in the day, and I managed to get this job in a men's hairdressers. Well, it was a double salon, a men's hairdressers, not hairstyling salon. It's quite a difference. Short back and sides place really was in the front of this building, and in the back was the ladies. You know, I got the job there, and I go for my first day, and they say to me, right, you're here on your own. We'll be in the back doing the ladies' hair, and you're here doing the men's. Okay, so they left me to it, and not beating my own drum. However, I was very good at men's hairdressing. I was trained by some of the best, so that was very lucky. So I was very confident in actually achieving a good haircut. So my first customer comes in, who's about 104, hobbles in, and sits down. He's got hardly any hair, real odd chap he was, and he took his glasses off and his hearing aids off and put his walking stick over here, and by the time he finished disrobing all these things, there wasn't much left. That's what it seemed like. And he just tipped his head forward for me just to give him the short back and sides. And there I am cutting his hair. I've got the clippers, I'm cutting his hair like this. The next thing I know, I'm on the ceiling. I'm on the ceiling looking down at my body, still like this with the comb and clippers. I was just like, I didn't think, oh my God, I'm on the ceiling. I just thought, oh my God, if I don't get back to this man, if I don't get back to my body, he's going to have a heart attack. He's so old. And I mean, bang, I was back into my body. Gosh, what little hair he had left, I almost clipped it all off. Anyway, I finished doing his haircut and I just knew I couldn't do an ordinary job then. I couldn't work for anybody else, not with this sort of thing going on. I've just had an out-of-body experience. So I went and apologised to the owner. I said, I'm really sorry. I can't do this. I didn't tell her why. I didn't say I just had an out-of-body experience. But I was in a bit of a state walking home. And excited at the same time. This was a possible thing. But I was like, how did I not say, oh, gosh, I'm on the ceiling? My first thought was for him. And I guess that's the way kind of I was really, was focused on other people and doing what was right for them really. So I went home and I shared this experience with my partner and friends and close friends, and continued doing more readings. I was learning a bit of astrology, which I found quite interesting. I knew more about it now. I had kind of looked at it for quite a few years beforehand because I thought it had to be rubbish. But now I was beginning to think there might be something in it, and people were giving me their charts to look at, and somehow psychically I was just reading them. So I thought, like, I've just got to go to astrology school. I can't just do this and wing it. I didn't want to wing it. I wanted to have the information, and so I did enrol in the Faculty of Astrology in London, and enjoyed very much the course. And I realised after some time of being there, when I said no to astrology, it was KNOW. I didn't know enough to say yes. So here I am. I am no longer working doing this hairdressing job. I'm doing readings. My confidence is building in some respects doing the readings. I was more able to deliver, but I still had these little dances that went on inside, and sometimes I was still having these panic attacks. And Spirit downloaded a protection for me, because some of these experiences felt a bit scary. And they said to me, this protection will help you. And you have to recognize that as you grow your light, you can expect the darkness around you to grow as well, because life is full of yin and yang. And because of your own personal things, your own depression within is attracting more negative from the outside. So doing this protection will help you to remain buoyant, positive, and it will protect you also from other people's negative emotions. So you're not absorbing them, they're your own. Like, don't go into the supermarket without doing a protection first. You'll find it much easier to do things when you do that. So they downloaded this information to me. Well, we didn't refer to it as downloads then, but we do now. And this is the protection. So you just put your right hand in front of your third eye and you sweep your hand back over your crown and you say, with all the love in the universe. Then you come back to the front of your third eye and sweep your hand back and you say, protect me from negative spirits, thoughts, vibrations and entity. You come back to the front, sweep your hand back again and you say, bring forth positive spirit, thoughts, vibration and entity to me. And go to your right ear and over to your left. Divine love is in control and all is well. That is amazing. I was doing that 20 times a day. I was instructed that if I started to feel down, do that again. But it was really imperative that I did it first thing in the morning and last thing at night. So that when I went astral travelling, which was, I will talk more about that in another video, but it protected me when I was out of my body. So this kind of brings me on now to, I talked about the dream. The last time in the last episode I talked about having the dream, this repetitive dream I'd had all of my life from the age of 2, every night till I was 8, and then once a week until I was 33. And here I am, coming up to 34. And it was the day after the anniversary of my mother's death. And on the anniversary, I had been looking for her everywhere. I was expecting a sign from her to say that she was about. And the fact I hadn't got anything all day, I was feeling very sad and missed her greatly. Anyone who's lost their parents will know what that feels like. And if you have indeed lost your parents, bless you, that's quite a journey. So here I am, the day after, and I'm kind of a bit more relaxed today. I'm not actually looking for anything to happen today. And I was sitting in the lounge in the evening. My partner was there and a couple of friends, and I start to have the dream. I'm sitting in the living room, wide awake. I start to have the dream. And if you remember, in the dream, I see this brilliant white square, and there's a little dot in the corner of the screen, and the dot, it's like a ball, and it bounces with dotted dashes to the middle of the screen, and then it starts to come forward like this, and then it becomes a cartoon of a man, comes forward a bit more, becomes a real man, and starts to come forward more. And I'm really panicking. It doesn't sound like a scary dream, but I'm telling you, I've been having this all my life. I was really scared. As the man was getting closer, I was so terrified. I didn't know what, I banged, I was out of my body, had another out-of-body experience, and my guide materialised, massive walking reindeer materialised by the side of me, and he said, "Look to yourself." And I did straight away. I obeyed him straight away, and I looked at myself. And instead of going like that and going backwards, I was actually doing this and looking forward. And I was so curious that I stopped being afraid and banged back into my body. And then the dream started happening full on. It's making me feel hot just thinking about it now. It was this man's face was getting closer and closer and closer. I was absolutely beside myself with fear. This face was coming so close to mine, and then suddenly his face was whizzed right back, and I could hear my mother saying, "It's all right, Linda, it's okay, Linda, it's your Uncle Harry, it's okay." And she kept repeating this and soothing me in only the way a mother can soothe you. I was really beside myself. And then I was just like, "Oh, it's my mother, it's my mother. I can hear my mother." And then in this white square, I saw my mother, and I saw all of my family that I had lost in this square. It was just absolutely incredible. And as I say, I'm feeling hot just thinking about it now, just remembering that time, to see them all there, all happy, all in sunshine and looking so well. It was amazing. And then Spirit said, "We're going to show you what you're really seeing." And then the screen went blank again, just white. And they said, "That is actually what you're seeing into. However, because your mother insisted on you checking out all the details," my mother was Virgo, detailed person, and looking at all the details of everything, what you could actually see was the shadows. And here it is again. You're seeing the shadows, and there they were again. And they made me realise then, actually, it was in black and white, and I hadn't actually even really noticed that. This is going to come into colour. And in time it came into colour, and that was really quite amazing. It was just so fantastic to see my mother, to see my family, my beautiful grandfather. It was just so something else. I can't express how incredibly lucky I was to have that experience. And Spirit was just downloading information to me and why I'd had certain experiences when I was growing up, and all of these experiences were there to really help me in my development and to help me do what I've come here to do. And it was just, I can't even remember it all. And they said you won't remember it all. When you need the information, it will just be there. It will just come. Just allow yourself to bathe in this experience. And I never, ever had that dream again. So my Uncle Harry, my mother's brother, had died when she was 16. And he'd been trying to come through to me since I was 2. But I was so timid. I was a timid person as a child. And so he was trying to come through to me in my dreams. And I couldn't quite hack it. But he was through. And so that name, whenever I hear the name Harry, makes me listen. Is this an important message coming through? So, but guess what? That really made me study dreams. That made me study dreams in a big way. And in a future episode, I'm going to talk more about dreams and my understandings of them now. It is quite incredible. Some of them aren't actually dreams, as that wasn't a dream. That was a visitation. Oh, gosh. Remembering that was incredible. Before I forget, by the way, I've given you the protection to do. You can actually find the protection on my website, lindagraham.net. It's all on there. So don't worry about if you want to use that. The wording's all there for you. All right. Really, really works fantastically well. Honestly, I've been doing it for years, all these years. I still do it. I did it before I started doing this before I started doing this episode. So I continued forward. It was such a relief to know, and I kind of knew without time being a teller that I wouldn't have the dream again. I didn't need it anymore, and I can tell you that was quite a relief. And I continued doing readings and continued having visions. And one morning I'm sitting up in bed and there is this movement starts to happen on the wall. And it captures my attention and I focus and stare at it until suddenly the whole wall is like a plasma screen. And I see this kind of rural area, a long path, and down the end of the path was a church-like building, so it kind of looked like, and I was really curious as to whether it was a church. I kind of really wanted to be in that. Next thing I know, I'm on the path. Now, I'm not on the outside of the vision watching myself be on the path. I am in there, I'm immersed in there as if it's as real as here. And that's what it felt like. I felt the wind in my hair. I walked down the path quite happily, quite relaxed, and walked up to the building and went into what I saw as the vestry. When I went into the vestry, I looked and there was a tall man there, and it was my friend Bill, and I hadn't seen him for 10 years. He had passed away 10 years ago, and I was just so delighted. Bill, I was like, amazing to see you. How fantastic. And he said, it's lovely to see you, Linda. And he put his arm around my shoulders. And without speaking a word, we just turned. We both stared into where there would normally, in this kind of building, be stalls and seating. But instead of seating, there were rows and rows and rows of beds with people in, and the sheets, white sheets done up to their necks. None of them were moving. And I said to Bill, they look like they're dead. What's going on? So he said, I want you to go and speak to them, Linda. Now this gets even more bizarre. I'm already in bed, at home, I'm now in a vision as well, and now I watch myself go and talk to them. So I'm in kind of 3 different places. Hey, so without question, I do this and it all flows, and I go off. I don't hear what I say to the people. I go off and speak to them all. Each one, I stop with them, and put my hand on their shoulder and talk to them. I go around to every single bed, and then I come back to Bill, stand by the side of him, and once again we look at the beds, and he puts his arm around me. I said, they all look alive now, Bill. He said, that's because you've given them hope, and that's what you're here for on this earth. I was like, wow, really? He said, yes, Linda, that's what you're here for. And then I was back in bed with my cup of tea in hand. Wow, that was astonishing. And here I am, this person who had this lack of confidence, being told that I'm here to give people hope. And, you know, there was quite a struggle. You know, my ego quite liked the idea, and the other part of me didn't think that could possibly be true, but I knew it had to be true. I just had this amazing experience. And, you know, there was a journey to be had to deal with the ego that followed with that. In one hand, to trust the divine, on the other hand, to not get too big for myself. So that was an interesting dance which I went through. And if you're doing readings and things like that in your development, if you start getting too big for your boots, Spirit will just turn off the information. You know, they will sort it out for you, definitely, so you become more humble. Now, humility, I was told from the experience with all the downloads after the dream, was something that I'd acquired because of my upbringing, and not being too I wasn't given a lot of enthusiasm from my father about me even being on this earth, let alone anything else. So my mother was enthusiastic, however my father wasn't, and we always want the person who's not giving us something to do that support. But the great thing is, I found out years later that one of the reasons he was like that was to help me in my personal journey. Because I was told in one of the visions that before we're born, we choose our lives, we choose our names, and we choose a reason for coming here. And it all synchronizes with the people we travel with. I'm going to talk more about that in a future video. It's very, very interesting. So I hope you've enjoyed hearing about this today. The next episode, I'm going to be talking to you about my first innings with visual telepathy, or some people call it overseeing. I didn't have a name for it when it happened to me. Learning about manifesting, and after seeing a speaker from America. What else we're going to talk about? Kundalini and Nadis and a few other things, I'm sure. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this episode, this third episode. It's been great to be here with you and to share my experiences. And if you enjoyed this experience, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, and share it with your friends, especially people who are waking up and trying to get a handle on what on earth is happening. We're at a very exciting time in this Earth's evolution, and humans are changing dramatically, especially during this coronavirus outbreak. It's a very, very interesting and awakening time. And I'll say many blessings. Bye.